from their work, mingled with the cawing of the rooks newly alighted on the high trees near the church, told them that bird, man, and beast were seeking their home for the night. But though Richard's eye dwelt upon the fair garden beneath him, embracing all its terraces, green slopes, and trim pastures, though it fell upon the moat belting the hall like a glittering zone, though it rested upon the church tower, and, roaming over the park beyond it, finally settled upon the range of hills bounding the horizon, which have not inaptly been termed the English Apennines, though he saw all these things, he thought not of them, neither was he conscious of the sounds that met his ear, and which all spoke of rest from labour and peace. Darker and deeper grew his melancholy. He began to persuade himself that he was not long for this world, and while gazing upon the beautiful prospect before him, was perhaps looking upon it for the last time. For some minutes Dorothy watched him anxiously, and at last, receiving no answer to her questions, and alarmed by the expression of his countenance, she flung her arms round his neck and burst into tears. It was now Richard's turn to console her, and he inquired with much anxiety as to the cause of this sudden outburst of grief. "You yourself are the cause of it, dear Richard," replied Dorothy, regarding him with brimming eyes. "I cannot bear to see you so unhappy. If you suffer this melancholy to grow upon you, it will affect both mind and body. Just now your countenance wore an expression most distressing to look upon. Try to smile, dear Richard, if only to cheer me, or else I shall grow as sad as you. Ah me! I have known the day, and not long since either, when on a pleasant summer evening like this you would propose a stroll into the park with me, and when there would trip along the glades as fleetly as a deer, and defy me to catch you. But you always took care I should, though. Ah, come, there is a little attempt at a smile, that's something. You look more like yourself now. How happy we used to be in those days, to be sure, and how merry! You would make the courts ring with your blithe laughter, and well nigh kill me with your jests. If love is to make one mope like an owl, and sigh like the wind through a half shut casement, if it is to cause one to lose one's rosy complexion and gay spirit, and forget how to dance and sing, take no pleasure in hawking and hunting, or any kind of sport, walk about with eyes fixed upon the ground, muttering, and with disordered attire, if it is to make one silent when one should be talkative, grave when one should be gay, heedless when one should listen, if it is to do all this, defend me from the tender passion, I hope I shall never fall in love." "I hope you never will, dear Dorothy," replied Richard, pressing her hand affectionately, "if your love is to be attended with such unhappy results as mine. I know not how it is, but I feel unusually despondent this evening, and am haunted by 1,000 dismal fancies. But I will do my best to dismiss them, and with your help no doubt I shall succeed. There, that was a smile in earnest," cried Dorothy, brightening up. "Oh, Richard, I am quite happy now. And after all, I do not see why you should take such a gloomy view of things. I have no doubt there is a great deal, a very great deal of happiness in store for you and Alizon. I must couple her name with yours, or you will not allow it to be happiness. If you can only be brought to think so, I am quite sure of it, and you shall see how nicely I can make the matter out. As thus, Mistress Nutter is certain to die soon. Such a wicked woman cannot live long. Don't be angry with me for calling her wicked, Richard, but you know I can never forget her unhallowed proceedings in the convent church at Whalley, where I was so nearly becoming a witch myself. Well, as I was saying, she cannot live long, and when she goes, and Heaven grant it may be soon, Alizon no doubt will mourn for her, though I shall not, and after a decent interval, then, Richard, she will no longer say you nay, but will make you happy as your wife. Nay, do not look so sad again, dear brother. I thought I should make you quite cheerful by the picture I was drawing." "It is because I fear it will never be realised that I am sad, Dorothy," replied Richard. "My own anticipations are the opposite of yours, and paint Alizon sinking into an early grave before her mother, while as to myself, if such be the case, I shall not long survive her." "Nay, now you will make me weep again," cried Dorothy, her tears flowing afresh. But I will not allow you to indulge such gloomy ideas, Richard. If I seriously thought Mistress Nutter likely to occasion all this fresh mischief, I would cause her to be delivered up to justice, and hanged out of the way. You may look cross at me, but I would. What is an old witch like her compared with two young handsome persons dying for love of each other, and yet not able to marry on her account?" "Dorothy, Dorothy, you must put some restraint on your tongue," said Richard. "You give it sadly too much licence. You forget it is the wish of the unhappy lady you refer to expiate her offences at the stake, and that it is only out of consideration to her daughter that she has been induced to remain in concealment. What will be the issue of it all I dare scarcely conjecture. Woe to her, I fear. Woe to Alizon. Woe to me." "Alas, Richard, that you should link yourself to her fate!" exclaimed Dorothy, half mournfully, half reproachfully. "I cannot help it," he replied. "It is my destiny a deplorable destiny, if you will, but not to be avoided. That Mistress Nutter will escape the consequences of her crimes, I can scarcely believe. Her penitence is profound and sincere, and that is a great consolation, for I trust she will not perish body and soul. I should wish her to have some spiritual assistance, but this Nicholas will not for the present permit, alleging that no churchman would consent to screen her from justice, when he became aware, as he must by her confession, of the nature and magnitude of her offences. This may be true, but when the wretches who have been leagued with her in iniquity are disposed of, the reason will no longer exist, and I will see that she is cared for. But apart from her mother, I have another source of anxiety respecting Alizon. It is this. Orders have been this day given for the arrest of Elizabeth Device and her daughter Jennet, and Alizon will be the chief witness against them. This will be a great trouble to her." "Undoubtedly," rejoined Dorothy, with much concern; "but can it not be avoided?" "I fear not," said Richard, "and I blamed Nicholas much for his precipitancy in giving the order; but he replied he had been held up latterly as a favourer of witches, and must endeavour to redeem his character by a display of severity. Were it not for Alizon, I should rejoice that the noxious brood should at last be utterly exterminated." "And so should I, in good sooth," responded Dorothy. "As to Elizabeth Device, she is bad enough for any thing, and capable of almost any mischief; but she is nothing to Jennet, who, I am persuaded, would become a second Mother Demdike if her career were not cut short. You have seen the child, and know what an ill favoured, deformed little creature she is, with round shoulders, eyes set strangely in her face, and such a malicious expression. Oh! I shudder to think of it." And she covered her face with her hands, as if to shut out some unpleasant object. Poor predestined child of sin! Branded by nature from her birth, and charged with wicked passions as the snake with venom, I cannot but pity her," exclaimed Richard. "Compassion is entirely thrown away," he added, with a sudden change of manner, and as if trying to shake off a weakness. "The poisonous fruit must, however, be nipped in the bud. Better she should perish now, even though comparatively guiltless, than hereafter with a soul stained with crime like her mother." As he concluded, he put his hand quickly to his side, for a sharp and sudden pang shot through his heart, and so acute was the pain, that after struggling against it for a moment, he groaned deeply, and would have fallen, if his sister, greatly alarmed, and with difficulty repressing a scream, had not lent him support. Neither of them were aware of the presence of a little girl, who had approached the place where they were sitting with footsteps so light that the grass scarcely seemed to bend beneath them, and who, ensconcing herself behind the tree, drank in their discourse with eager ears. She was attended by a large black cat, who, climbing the tree, placed himself on a bough above her. During the latter part of the conversation, and when it turned upon the arrest of Jennet and her mother, the expression of the child's countenance, malicious enough to begin with, became desperately malignant, and she was only restrained by certain signs from the cat, which appeared to be intelligible to her, from some act of mischief. At last even this failed, and before the animal could descend and check her, she crept round the bole of the tree, so as to bring herself close to Richard, and, muttering a spell, made one or two